Chapter 20. Hannah sat up in bed, pushed the covers away and looked down. She lay naked. But that wasn't what alarmed her. All her bruises and scratches had disappeared. What was it that Giovanni had done to her? If he could wipe her mind clear, then he could heal her skin as easily, she thought. Calling out to Gabriella, she said, "Wait a minute, Gabby, I have to get dressed." She climbed out of bed and rushed to the shower. She felt all the muscles in her body had been worked, and then she realized that Giovanni had been there, and it wasn't a dream after all. But she felt the presence of something else. What was it? She searched her mind, but nothing was clear. There was a sort of fog covering her, and she couldn't piece anything together, except Giovanni. She smiled, recalling her feelings for him. She had been determined to be rid of him, but she had thought of what Justin said. It was either the werewolf or the vampire. She had long chosen the vampire because she had fallen in love. Hannah hadn't thought about anything else. Not the changing of her habits to sleep with him during the day, to be with him at night. He is the night, and he belonged to her and her to him. As she thought about what it would be like to live with a vampire, her mind searched for an answer to the strange feeling that came across her in her sleep, and then it came to her. The voice she heard during sleep was the witch. It wasn't a dream after all. Now she knew she had to act. If she didn't, soon she and her baby would be dead. Rushing from the shower, she dressed and found Gabriella in the kitchen, chewing on a sandwich. She sat down and nibbled on her roast beef on rye and drank the soup from the small carton Gabriella had delivered from the deli, leaving the plastic spoon in the paper. "When are we going to cook?" she asked. "Never. I plan to die eating out," Gabriella said as she drank a glass of juice. "It can't be good for you." "It's great for me, but then I'm not the one who's knocked up." Gabriella took a large bite out of her corned beef sandwich as she looked over to Hannah. Hannah grimaced and put her sandwich down. "I got you roast beef on rye and minestrone soup just like you like, so why the sour face?" "Thanks, Gabby, but now I'm not hungry. I'll just have the soup." She took a plastic spoon, sipped from it, and then placed it down and glanced over to Gabriella. "Giovanni left this morning." Gabriella's eyes shot over to Hannah. "How is it that I didn't hear you open the door for him or close it?" "Because he's a vampire. He comes and goes when he wants, but only at night and never during the day." "I thought you were kidding me." "Well, I had hoped that it was one big joke or delusion on your part, and I played along with you, but I see you believe that thing about him being a vampire. And I trust your mind. But not to fear. I've contacted my mother and asked her for a list of all the names of the women who have bought mansions within the last year, which are in throwing distance of Giovanni's apartments." "How is that going to help us?" Hannah went to stand, and Gabriella held her hand. "Hear me out. Once we know where that bitch is, we can strut in during the day, after we break in with a key that the realtor provided as a favor to my mother." Gabriella held up a key. "These old places use keys, not like those new apartments being built all around Manhattan." "What about alarms?" "None. They're arrogant and don't think anyone would suspect them of being anything but what they are. Rich assholes. Trust me, I know the mindset," Gabriella said, placing her legs on the chair next to her. "They have watchdogs like that witch who kidnapped you. Then we can bring a wooden stake and hammer and put her to rest." Hannah opened her mouth. "I can't believe what I'm hearing. You're a woman that never broke a limb off a tree for fear it would hurt its feelings, and there you are planning to murder someone." "She's after me, and I'm going to be the one to put a stake in her heart," Hannah said forcefully. "You're more of a tree hugger than I am. You would never be able to sleep at night, and that will worry you forever. You have a baby to think about. We both have lost our mind. We can't kill a living and breathing human being. You forgot something. She's a vampire, then she's dead already. I think I can do it." I have something to tell you. When Giovanni left, I thought I saw Taisia standing over my bed. I'm certain it was her. Then what's the problem? All the better to get her before she gets to you. I mean to us. I'm in this with you. She's come to my home. Do you think she will let me live when she kills you? She's not going to kill me because Giovanni isn't going to let them. And where was he when she stood over you? Hannah thought about it and glanced over to Gabriella, who rose from her chair and smiled. It's time we controlled our destiny. Not sit around and allow a dead bitch and her sick witch to frighten us. Let's do it. Get up, we have places to go and people to see. We have to get a wooden stake, a mallet for hitting the stake, and holy water. There's some at the church and a hardware store not far. It should have wood strong enough to penetrate her cold, dead heart. Then we can stop at the palm reader who has a storefront around the corner. Are you serious? A palm reader? Fuck yeah. I consult her from time to time on matters of the heart. Today, we need to read our lifeline inside our palms. Now get up and let's get something that can protect us from those bitches. And kill the first one who tries to kill you. As they were walking out the door heading for the elevator, the door opened, and the same young man whom they had seen yesterday was standing in the elevator. Now it happened a second time, and the second time, he didn't get off but wrote it down with them. He glanced over to Hannah. You're Hannah, and you're Gabriella? Yes. Why do you ask? Hannah said. Gabriella moved closer away from him, but the door opened, and she grabbed Hannah's hand and pulled her into the lobby where people were moving about, and security was on duty and at their desk for once. His eyes focused on Hannah, and he said, I'm Detective Bell. Your parents have been looking for you, and I've been looking for both of you. Why me? Gabriella asked. Because I was told if you find Gabriella, you will find Hannah. We're busy, Detective Bell, we're in a hurry, Hannah said. If I were you, I'd call my parents, the detective said to Hannah. All due respect, detective, but you aren't me, and the last time I checked I had a right to disappear and go where I want. I'm over 21. He smiled at her and she said, We're leaving now. Is there anything you have to say? Do any of you know a man named Giovanni Nightingale? Everyone knows Giovanni Nightingale, Gabriella said as she walked to the door and the doorman opened it. Hannah didn't say a word. I'm investigating the death of my partner. It seems he was the last one to see her alive. His doorman said she left his apartment and got into her car, and not far from her home she drove into a tree. Hannah held her breath and then blew out a relieved sigh. Giovanni hadn't killed the woman. Hannah knew it couldn't be him, but she couldn't be sure. She hadn't known him long, and he could travel without being seen and go places few could, and especially not mortals. I guess I'll see you again, ladies, the detective said, and he strode to his black Ford and clambered in. Did you see that body? Hard ass and those shoulders. I could have fucked him all night and never come up for air. But sadly his eyes were only for you, and sadly still your eyes are only for Giovanni. Now let's go. Gabriella pulled Hannah, who stood looking at Detective Bell, but thinking of Giovanni. They strode up the street to the church. Surprisingly, Hannah could walk the long city blocks without losing breath. That long trek in the woods of Virginia had gotten her into shape. But was it enough? Chapter 21. After getting a small vial of holy water from the church, Hannah followed Gabriella reluctantly to the psychic. They stood in front of a small storefront that said Palm Reader, arguing. I don't think I can do this. It's ridiculous. What's ridiculous is standing here and doing nothing about that vampire who's trying to kill us. I'm in this with you. I'm your friend, and do you think that bitch vampire will care? she's going to take me and you and your baby and do heaven knows what with us. I could be walking around stalking and feeding on Brian and Chase for Christ's sake, Hannah. Gabriella shuddered at the thought. We can't make it easy for her to take our lives. If she wants mine, she'll have to work for it. Gabby, I understand and I'm all for killing Sasha and Taisia, but a palm reader doesn't make any sense to me. We didn't walk this long way to have someone tell us nonsense, Hannah said. You have to have faith. If I can believe you when you tell me about vampires, witches, and werewolves, then you can indulge me for a few minutes. Besides, I come here regularly. For what? I need someone to tell me my future. I want to know whom I'm going to marry, or if I will. And what did that person tell you? She didn't have enough information just yet. Precisely. Just as I thought. Let's get this over with. I want to be home when Giovanni comes for me. Hannah opened the door and stepped into the small room smelling of incense and flowers, perhaps to cover the strong smell of something burning. I don't have any money, Hannah said after looking in her purse. How much could this cost? Not much, she thought. The place looked like the only client was Gabriella. Don't worry, Hannah, I got this. And why hasn't that rich, handsome bastard given you some money? Because he's coming for me tonight. You can't go with him until we've gotten rid of Sasha. When Gabriella said Sasha's name, a woman pushed away a tie-dyed curtain, revealing another small room with a table and candles setting atop it. She said nothing but instructed them to come with her hand. When they had walked in and sat where the woman instructed, the woman sat too. Where's Dahlia? She's off today. I'm taking her place. Are you a seer too? Yes, I'm a clairvoyant. I can see the future, if that's what you mean. I guess you will do, Gabriella said, as her glance wavered from Hannah to the fortune teller. Hannah didn't feel comfortable. It was something about her with her hair covered and a mask over her face, like someone out of the Arabian Nights tale. She appeared to have read too many books on what she thought a psychic would look like and tried to imitate it. I think we should come back when Dahlia is available. Trust me, she won't be returning anytime soon. It was a definitive statement that aroused Hannah's suspicion. She grabbed Gabriella's hand. Come on, Gabby. Let's go. Gabriella glanced at Hannah, not realizing what Hannah knew. That something wasn't right about the woman. She appeared to be someone Hannah had seen before. But where? But she didn't want to stick around to find out. Gabriella stood, and they turned and eased to the curtains leading to the front room they had entered, and the only exit. Before they could reach the curtains, the woman stood in front of them, blocking the entrance to the only exit out to the street where there were people who could help them. Hannah watched and looked around. She knew something was wrong, and it was. Where do you think you are going? The woman said. Hannah thought, where had she heard that voice before? She searched her memory, and it came to her. But she needed to be sure. Take off that scarf and let us see your face. She wound her hands quickly around the scarf covering her head and face, and Hannah stepped back in fear. Gabriella didn't realize at that moment what they were up against. Look, bitch. If you don't move out of our way, we will bitch slap you, and then call the police. Hannah glanced at Gabriella. She had never had a confrontation in her life, and the words pouring from her mouth was from some television show or movie she had watched. Taisia raised an eyebrow and grinned. Her sparkling teeth blinded Gabriella, and she raised her hand in front of her eyes. Gabriella, you don't understand. This is the witch I was telling you about. She's the one who kidnapped me and was ready to sacrifice me as an offering, or whatever it is they do. I understand. Maybe she doesn't. Gabriella puffed up her chest and held on to her purse that contained the holy water and stake. She was reaching inside for it when Hannah grabbed her hand. "There are two of us, bitch. You can't handle both of us. I'm from New York and I've seen it all. There's nothing you can do to me that the muggers haven't already done." "Tell her, Hannah," Taisia said, smirking at Gabriella, enjoying the amusing girl for a few more seconds. "Tell her that I'm a witch and I can do things to her what no one has done before. I can burn her alive if I want." Her voice sinister and measured. "You don't know the cruelty I've inflicted on girls like you." She walked to Gabriella and grabbed her face with both hands and smelled her face. "You have good skin. I can use it in one of my portions. You can keep me young for years." And she dropped her hands from Gabriella. It had begun to sink into Gabriella that they were in grave trouble, and she couldn't do anything to stop the witch. She had one last thing to try. "You wouldn't do that to a pregnant woman and her friend, would you?" It was too late for Hannah to stop her from revealing what she didn't want anyone to know, and especially Taisia, who answered to Sasha. To make the case, Gabriella continued even as Hannah pulled on her arm to shut up. "Hannah's having a baby for a vampire, and if you don't let us go, you will pay a price. The last time I checked, witches can't come close to vampires in viciousness, and trust me, he will burn you after he lets his vampires suck you dry. Can you handle that?" Gabriella had thrown her bluff, but it wasn't enough. It only made the witch angry. Taisia spun around, and they were blinded by the light she held in her palms. Their heads hurt and their eyelids grew heavy, and then the lights dimmed for both Hannah and Gabriella.